Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Jenny Niles. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Education, and can you tell I'm just a little bit excited?
Yes.
And I think that I first want to start by thanking Principal Bell for having us here at Watkins. It looks beautiful. And so I also want to welcome and thank Councilmember Grasso, who's chair of the Education Committee, who's joined us. And we have two State Board of Ed members here, Karen Williams, the president, and Joe Whedon, who is Ward 6. Three years ago, DC switched to from the DC CAS to the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Career, or Parcc. This switch marked a new direction for education in the district. We needed to raise the standards for our kids because we wanted them to graduate from high school ready to take on college and career. Our teachers are working hard every day to ensure our students have knowledge and skills they need to be successful. We measure our students' progress in different ways, including through the Parcc exams, and we do this for a few different reasons. First, we want to set our students up for success. Parcc results are one of the many ways to ensure students are on the right track to excel in their college classes. Just getting to college isn't good enough. We need to make sure that they get through college and don't need to take remedial courses along the way. We need to put resources where they are needed most. The Parcc helps us to identify what is working and what content areas might need more resources or support for our students, teachers, and schools. And we need to tell the story of our progress. When families want to know how their student or school is improving academically, looking at Parcc scores over time allows us to paint a clear picture of our progress. As we continue to expand access to quality education throughout the district, we use the Parcc scores and other measures to monitor our growth and make certain that we are on the right path to preparing our students for college and career. I know that you are excited to find out where we are as a city on Parcc, so I won't keep you waiting any longer. I'm proud to be part of an administration that knows the value of investing in our kids and is committed to preparing our students for college and career life. Without further ado, I welcome my boss, Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Well, good morning, everybody. Principal Bell, to the teachers and staff here at Watkins, to the parents and students, welcome back to school. Give yourselves a big round of applause. I am so delighted to be with you all today and with our public education team that you see to my left and to my right. These are our school leaders who work hand in hand with our principals and teachers and communities to make sure that we are advancing the best public education options in every ward of the District of Columbia. And as Jenny said, we have fantastic news to share with you today. Let me acknowledge each person that's going to talk to you today. You've already heard from our Deputy Mayor, Jenny Niles, who has spent the last 2.5 years working with parents and families in both sectors of our public education system. Our state superintendent, Hanseul Kang, who is responsible for testing in the District of Columbia, along with many other things that she'll talk to you about. I also want to recognize the executive director of our public charter school board, Scott Pearson, who is leading and helping to work with school leaders in our public charter school sector. And I want to introduce to many of you, maybe for the first time, the new Chancellor of the District of Columbia's public schools, Antwan Wilson. Please give them all a big round of applause. And we can do nothing without our partners on the Council of the District of Columbia. And anytime you have a mayor and a council, there's sometimes you don't agree on things. But what we all agree on is our most robust investment in our public schools. And I've asked Councilmember Grasso, a couple of times now to do really hard things. And he always says yes. So I want to thank him for his support of our schools. Thank you, Councilmember Grasso. And to our State Board of Education members, thank you too for being here to help us talk about these important gains. So here's the bottom line. For 2 straight years, we've seen very robust growth in our students' test scores. Citywide, or statewide as we like to say, we are seeing an increase of 2% in math and an increase in 4% in the English language arts, which is very good news for our schools. I asked the team just before we walked in, give me the highlights of what everybody is interested to hear today. We saw increases in every ward of the District of Columbia, all 8 wards. We saw increases in all grade levels, all moving in the right direction. We saw increases in both math and reading. And we saw increases among all groups of students across races, ethnicity, and English language learners and students with disabilities. So let's hear it for our teachers and parents for working with our students. And what our numbers show is that we saw increases across both sectors, which means both sectors are learning from each other and delivering quality options for our kids. We know that none of these things have happened by accident. 10 years of a robust commitment to changing our schools, from the buildings like we see here to investments in our teachers and their professional development, to making sure our curriculum reflects what our children need to be successful in college and career, and making sure now we also see all the places where we need to continue to grow. Chancellor Wilson and I know all of our public charter school leaders are focused on that. How we will continue to close the gaps and continue to see our test scores improve. We are starting this week what we call our tour for Every Day Counts. So you know what happens when a kid misses school? A day, 2 days? They miss on quality learning. They miss the experience that these fantastic educators have to offer. And in their little lives, every day represents an opportunity to just compound on their learning. So we want to send a message. Of course, we're focused on truancy, but we're also focused on what I call casual truancy. Like one day, the kids stayed up too late and that they can't make it to school the next day. Or a parent may have stayed, and I'm going to be honest now. Parents may have stayed up too late and couldn't make it to school the next day. Any and all reasons. There are a lot of reasons why on any given day it could be tough to make it to school. And so what we want to talk about and what we will share throughout Washington, D.C. is why every day counts. So we will continue to talk about that and tell you more about our attendance campaign and ask you to be involved, to model for our kids what it means to show up every day ready to learn, and also for every school community in our city to set the expectation that the very robust investments that we're making, they get the benefit of those investments each and every day. So I am just honored that we are here to share great news. At the conclusion of our remarks, and you're going to hear the details from Superintendent Kang and our school leaders about what the results show, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Superintendent Kang.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser, and thank you all for being here today. As the mayor said, we have really great news to celebrate today. And I wanted to just take a minute to talk a little bit about why these results matter and why Parcc matters. As you heard from the deputy mayor, we're trying to make sure that our students can not only get to college, but can succeed in college. And we know that that matters because by 2020, more than 3/4 of the jobs in the DC region will require some level of higher education. We want to make sure that we're preparing our students for these jobs of the future. And in the past, the problem that we're trying to solve for is that in DC and across the country, too many of our students were actually doing everything we had asked them to do. They were doing well in high school, getting to college, but then finding out that they had to take remedial coursework, and they were wasting time and precious financial resources relearning things that they really should have been able to learn in our schools. And that's what we're trying to guard against here. Why we shifted to Parcc is to make sure that our students and our families and our educators know earlier, when we can still do something about it, what our students' true readiness for college and career really is. And so Parcc starts with that end goal in mind, what our students need to know and be able to do to succeed in that first year of college, and works backwards from there to say, what do they need to know in high school, in middle school, and in elementary school to prepare for that point. And I think you can really see that when you look at a couple of the sample questions on the Parcc assessment. So the 7th grade English Language Arts question on the right, for example, asks students to read 2 passages from real texts and compare how an author develops theme in each of these texts. And that's a hard thing to do. But you can see how if a 7th grader can do this in 7th grade with relatively short selected passages, how they might be ready 6 years later in that first year of college to write an independent term paper, to really be ready to succeed in that first year. And that's why Parcc matters. We're excited also to highlight higher education's use of Parcc. So students who score a 4 or higher on Parcc are highly likely to succeed in entry-level credit-bearing coursework in higher education. And again, the partnership with higher ed is one of the things that distinguishes Parcc from other older assessments. Institutions of higher education in Kentucky, Massachusetts, and Illinois have already been accepting Parcc as the entry into credit-bearing coursework, and we're excited to share that starting in 2018, the University of the District of Columbia's Community College will also start accepting Parcc in the same way. And we're looking forward to other institutions joining as well. So getting into the results. As the mayor shared, we have great news here. Scores are up for the 2nd year in a row. They're up across almost all grades and subjects. We have especially strong improvement in middle grades in both English Language Arts and mathematics, reflecting the city's focus and investments in this area. All groups of our students across demographics improved, and specific groups of students are even outpacing the state when it comes to improvement. So when we talk about these percentages, just as a reminder for folks, there are 5 different levels on Parcc, and levels 4 and 5 show that students are meeting or exceeding expectations, that they're on track for the next grade level, and again, on track to be ready for college and careers. And so when we talk about percentages in these coming slides, it's the percent of students scoring at the level 4 or higher that we're talking about in most cases. As the mayor shared, we are up across the state 4 points in English Language Arts and 2 points in math. In particular, you can see that in English Language Arts in the first year, in 2015, a quarter of our students were on track for college and career. And today, 2 years later, almost a third of our students are now meeting the bar. We're also excited that in addition to more of our students meeting or exceeding the expectations, we see fewer students in levels 1 and 2, the lowest levels. So we're reducing the numbers of students who are furthest from meeting the bar that is needed. We're also seeing these gains across grade levels. So you can see in English Language Arts, we're seeing increases in grades 3 to 8 in elementary and middle schools, and especially large increases in grades 9 to 12 in high school. Similarly, in math, we're seeing gains in both elementary and middle and in high school. We're also seeing significant ELA improvement in specific grades. So in 5th grade, 7th grade, and in English 2, we saw particularly large gains. English 2 is taken in high school, usually in the 10th grade year. And then we're also seeing significant improvement in math in specific grades in 6th grade and 7th grade. So you can see that focus on middle grades really paying off. And then as we look at the results for specific groups of students, we again see improvements across gender, across English learner and students with disabilities, at-risk students, and economically disadvantaged students. We also see results increasing across all racial and ethnic groups. That said, I also want to just take a moment to acknowledge that while we are proud of the progress we are making and proud that it is so widespread, we still see troubling gaps between different groups of our students, and we need to continue to work with great urgency and focus to address those gaps. We at Aussie are committed to doing everything in our power to continue to focus on equity, think about the resources and supports we need to ensure our students who are furthest behind are actually making even faster progress so we can work to close gaps over time. Finally, I just want to note that statewide, our participation rates are very high. They are above the 95% participation requirement that we see at the federal level. So we are proud to see that our students and our educators are participating in this incredible assessment. And then just briefly, a word about the resources that are available today and over time. So available today on our website, you will see school and LEA results available on our website at aussie.dc.gov/Parcc. You can find the results for individual schools and local education agencies. Student results, individual student results, are also available to LEAs and schools, which is so important. We need to make sure our educators have those results so they can think about how to tailor their instruction. Coming next week, the week of August 21st, you will see the results.aussie.dc.gov website, which shows interactive visuals, additional customizations, and so on. That'll be available by the end of next week. And by early September, schools will be delivering individual student reports to parents and families. So they will have paper copies that they will be sending home so that families can look at where their students performed, what their areas of strength were, and what areas for improvement are. That interactive website that will be available next week will show multiple years of data, lots of detail, and lots of visualizations. And this is just a quick look at what the supports for families looks like, the individual student score reports. On the front page, you see just an overall summary, but on the second page, you get into what are the areas where the students did well or might need more support. How did the student do on writing versus reading, on informational text versus literary text? So really some more detail and some questions that parents can bring to their teachers to talk about further. And finally, there are available online. There's lots of information for people who just want to better understand this assessment. What does it look like? What does it measure? There are practice tests, there are tutorials, and there are release test items. And this PowerPoint will be available online, so you can see all of those links. I just want to close briefly with a quick thank you to the Aussie staff who've been working around the clock to try and get these results out faster to educators and to families so that we can all make good use of them. And I want to congratulate the students, families, educators, community members, and a number of the LEA leaders who are here in the room. Congratulations to all of you for the incredible work you've been doing, which is seen in the progress we're seeing today. And so with that, I will turn it over to Chancellor Wilson.
So thank you, Superintendent Kang. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the progress here in DCPS. Also want to appreciate the Mayor, Mayor Bowser, for her continued support of DCPS and education in general. I think the support that we get in education from the Mayor and then also City Council speaks to what's possible when education is prioritized across the city. And I strongly believe that a great city is determined by its investment in the future generation, and that is demonstrated through investing in education. So thank you for that. Also want to appreciate Principal Bell for hosting us here. I think it's a great opportunity for people to see this amazing state-of-the-art facility. I understand that afterwards people get an opportunity to tour, and it's also an opportunity to interact with our awesome community members who played such an important role in making this space possible, and then our teachers and staff as well as they prepare for the start of the school year and also get to benefit of this amazing space, and then students on Monday. So excited about that. I am thrilled to be here to talk about DCPS's progress and how it continues to improve as one of the fastest improving urban school districts. And that's on a number of measures, whether you're talking about the National Assessment for Educational Progress, whether you're looking at our graduation rates and the fact that they continue to rise exponentially, whether you talk about our student satisfaction rates and you compare where the district was 10 years ago to now, when almost 85% of students report being satisfied with their school experience. And so we're extremely excited about that. And then our enrollment is up. And so we are improving in a number of areas, and it's not surprising, although great to be here to talk about the fact that DCPS students have also made unprecedented gains on the 2017 Parcc assessment in both ELA and math. So all of that is just icing on the cake. And so we'll take a few moments to talk about that, about the progress. So what we want to highlight first is that whether you're looking at English language arts, we see that the district is up 6.4%, and compared to state is up 4%, 6.4 in DCPS. And then similarly in math, the state is up 2%, DCPS is up 3.5%. So we're really excited about that. Continuing, you also see when you look at the middle school, the grades 3 through 8, and then you look at high school, you see significant progress across the board, both tremendous gains in grades 3 through 8, and we saw some of our largest gains happening within our high schools when you look at English language arts improvement there. So we're extremely excited about that progress as well. And this right here is just showing math. So you see grades 3 through 8 in math, and you see grades 9 through 12 in high school. Again, seeing improvement across the board for us in DCPS. And this slide is just highlighting, as the mayor mentioned, all of our groups of students are up. And, you know, I wish, just considering how much I love students and how much I believe in the importance of education, that all states are going to be presenting this type of data, but the fact of the matter is they aren't. All states aren't going to be reporting that all student groups are up. And there are many states it's flat or students are going the other direction. So it's a testament to the tremendous work of our educators, tremendous leadership, the tremendous support of our community, that we have been able to focus our efforts so that all of our students improve across the district. You see the same happening in math. This right here is just speaking to the fact that all grade levels are up. And I just call particular attention to, you begin to see in 5th grade and then 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, you see the improvement there. So we know that we've had a focus in the city on middle school. The district has had a focus. The mayor's had a focus. And I'll just say that what this data is showing is that when we focus in and begin to prioritize the needs of groups of students in a really thoughtful way, it makes a difference. And so we're really excited about the progress that we're seeing. And again, we see it across the board in English language arts. You see also significant improvement in math, and you also see increased improvement in grades 6 and 7 and 8 in math. So again, the middle school focus, they're growing faster. Our students are growing faster in middle school than in previous years. Also want to take a moment to highlight the fact that we're seeing improvement across a number of DCPS schools. And so just wanted to take a moment to allow those schools to be presented there. And you can see the various wards represented. And again, all of these schools, at least 2 percentage point gains in both ELA and math. So there are schools that have one or the other, but a significant number of schools that were able to show significant improvement in both subject areas. And so very proud of that. Absolutely. And then I just want to also highlight the schools, several schools that were able to, 15 schools, they're able to make double-digit gains in ELA, and you also see schools that made double-digit gains in math. And so I think it's important to highlight, and I just want to point out that you'll see that we have several, Wilson High School near the top there, and then Ludlow Taylor. So you see a number of different schools, Phelps, Ace High School. I'm coming there. I'm saving them for last. So trust me, I'm not forgetting Watkins. Make no mistake about it. Watkins is in my talking points. Thank you, Mayor. But I want to point out a few things, that the progress is a testament to our students' learning. It's also a clear sign, as I mentioned, of our commitment to our young people and the significant investment that has been made in our young people and in programs. We want to make sure that we are highlighting those. So, for instance, educators at School Without Walls at Francis Stevens, they've embraced the rigorous curriculum that was designed by DCPS teachers for DCPS teachers. And so School Without Walls at Francis Stevens in Ward 2 seeing a 17% increase in ELA and 11% in math. That comes with being able to buy in and to be willing to take risks, because we know that they were already doing some things that they felt really proud about. but it's also a significant plug for our tremendous leadership centrally. So I want to appreciate our Chief of Teaching and Learning, Office of Teaching and Learning, Brian Pick, and that whole team there. I want to appreciate, please, yes. Additionally, we have seen an increase in our college and career support at the high school level so that every student learns the skills critical for success. And so when you see the improvement at Wilson and when you see the improvement at ACE High School, you see that investment pays off. And so I want to appreciate all the leaders at those schools, principals and assistant principals. I also want to appreciate John Davis, who was interim chancellor and chief of schools, for his leadership. Appreciate Dr. Jane Spence and the instructional superintendents, Superintendent Pender and Bay, for their work. I guess what I'm trying to say is a team effort. It pays off. Continuing, teachers at Turner Elementary School collaborate and they hone their craft through LEAP, a weekly professional development opportunity, so that every student experiences outstanding instruction. It was a tremendous investment and a big risk on the part of the district to go out bold and to say that we're going to provide this opportunity, but it makes a difference in student progress. Thank you to Chief Cambris for his leadership and the leadership of the Office of Instructional Planning for taking that initiative, and it's serving as a model for the district, and it's paying off for our students. We also have made significant middle school investments so that every middle school student has rigorous and joyful learning opportunities. So when you see that improvements in our middle schools like Stuart Hobson, when you see that played out in so many of our middle schools, all of our middle schools, it makes a difference. And then finally, the DCPS has invested in talented leadership. We have tremendous leaders, and I've had an opportunity to be in other districts, and I've been in every one of our schools here in the district. And we have awesome leaders, whether we're talking about our principals or assistant principals. And I want to appreciate Principal Elena Bell right here at Watkins, as well as the teachers here and our teacher leaders for your work, because Watkins Elementary School right here in Ward 6 saw a 12% increase in English language arts and 9% in math. That is literally blowing it out of the water in both subjects. Thank you. 9% math. Thank you. So just a few last comments. We know that improving our Parcc scores, that's just one indication that we're headed in the right direction. We're pleased with our growth as a district, but I also want to make sure that we highlight that we do have still have work to do. As I just go back here and show this, just leave it on this slide as I talk about it, because we want to make sure that all of our students are prepared for college and career opportunities. And it's really important to highlight both, college and career. We recognize that the skills that students are going to need in order to succeed in either one are very similar. Their ability to engage in rigorous performance tasks in English language arts, the ability to do math and engage in rigorous problem solving is going to be important whether they decide to go right into the world of work or whether they decide to go on to a 2-year or 4-year college or university. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that. And while we are seeing record progress as a district and we continue to make improvements, we want to highlight the fact that we have some groups of students that we need to accelerate their progress, as Superintendent Kang mentioned. And I look forward to working with all of you, all of our talented leaders, to make sure that our black students, our students that are acquiring English as a second or third language, and our students with special needs, that those students begin to grow even faster than they are growing now, which means that we need to double down our supports. That support comes in resource. That support comes in our time. That support comes in who teaches them and the curriculum that they use. So we can do that, and I know that if we pull together this way, that all of our students in the district can succeed, because we know that when every student is getting support that they need, they will do well, and that's what equity is absolutely about. So I am proud of our success. I'm looking forward to a great school year ahead, and we'll continue to do great work. Fortunate enough to work with a talented group of leaders in a city that invests so much in education. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over. I believe I'm turning it over to Scott Pearson.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Chancellor Wilson, and congratulations to you and the entire team at DCPS for the outstanding results. For our friends around the country who say that a robust charter sector weakens the traditional school district, I would say to them, take a look at DCPS, because they're doing wonderfully. Turning to the charter sector, our results have improved this year, but by a small amount. 0.3% in English language arts and just 0.1% in math for students scoring 4 and above. So I have a few points to make about that. First of all, public schools in Washington, both charters and DCPS, are continuing to improve, and that is good news for students and families. For charter schools, this is the 10th year in a row, ever since 2006, that public charter school students have improved. Some years we improve a lot. Some years, like this one, we improve a little. But public education is not the work of a day. We're proud of our track record over time, even as we know that we still have more work to do to ensure that every student is getting the best possible education. Second, public charter schools offer families many options for a quality education, but more importantly, they serve all students in the district. And we are pleased that our results have improved even as every year public charter schools enroll more students who are economically disadvantaged, more students who are classified as at risk, and more special education students. We have top performing and top improving public charter schools that serve students living in every ward of our city. And I want to call out the top performing schools in ELA and math. So for English language arts, Washington Latin Middle School, Latin America Montessori Bilingual, Washington U Ying, Basis DC, DC International, DC Prep Edgewood Middle, and Inspired Teaching Demonstration School. And in math, 4 KIPP campuses lead the way for grades 3 through 8, KIPP Promise, Heights, Spring, and Lead, DC Prep's Edgewood Middle School, Basis, Early Childhood Academy, Washington Latin's Middle School, DC Prep's Edgewood School, Friendship Chamberlain, and Washington U Ying. In terms of our most improved schools, this is across English and math, we have E.L. Haynes Elementary School, Eagle Academy, Friendship Chamberlain, just around the corner from us here, Shining Stars Montessori, 2 Center City schools, Center City Shaw and Trinidad, and KIPP AIM. And finally, 2 public high schools are at the top of our performance, Basis and Latin and E.L. Haynes High School are the most improved public charter schools, public charter high schools. And I'd just like to close by saying that Parcc is only one measurement that we use to assess school quality. It's very important to look at individual student growth from year to year. We include that in our annual school quality reports, and it's also part of the forthcoming statewide measure. Our school quality reports will be released this fall. Each school will have its separate score and rating, which parents and students will be able to examine. And I'd like to close by acknowledging my colleagues, because we really are a team, thanking the family at Watkins for welcoming us, and finally, just thanking Mayor Bowser and the City Council for their extraordinary financial support for public schools. It really is different than almost any other jurisdiction in the country, and we're very blessed to be operating here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Well, thank you all for those presentations, and I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by your council member, the Ward 6 council member, Charles Allen. Let's give Charles a big round of applause. And you're going to hear from Charles when we go down to cut the ribbon on our beautiful school. So we'll take some questions on schools first. Yes, ma'am. Okay, we'll come back to you. Any other questions on schools? And the good news, we have Sam and then Harry.
One of the things, of course, there's a big piece in the Post today about cost. Can you talk about that? They're saying, for example, this school, the costs are roughly 3 times what it was originally stated to be. I think it's $100 million over budget at Duke Ellington. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I do have something to say about that, because I think while the Post got some of the story right, the headline was exactly wrong. And let me explain. And I don't work for the Post or anything, but I might write the headline a little differently. I would say that we're finally getting school budgeting right. And what I mean by that is this, and I was on the city council, and council member Grasso knows well as well, that for years we tried to just budget a little bit just to get a school in the pipeline, to get the school in the queue. So we would go to the budget, and we'll use Watkins as an example. We know Watkins needs to be remodeled, but in a given budget year, we didn't have enough to allocate towards that budget. So we didn't. We put in what we had. And it could have been $10 million when everybody knew full well that it would cost many millions more to completely renovate the school. So the same was true for Duke Ellington. I think the original number was $60-some million. Well, we haven't renovated a high school for $60 million in more than 10 years. So that was never the actual number. And so what we have done in the 2.5 years that we've been here is try to change that. And so instead of saying that we're just going to put $20 million in for this school that we know will cost $80 million, we make sure that we can allocate the full cost of the renovation before we put it in the budget at all. So over the last 3 budgets, we have changed that process, made sure we had as best an estimate as we can, and fully budget for that amount. The second thing that we've done is we've stopped trying to do them, a $80 million renovation in 3 months, or in even some cases 12 months. So we have a new schedule where we spend a year planning, working with the community, and then we make sure we have at least 1 year and possibly 2 years for construction. And that we know will give us some truth in budgeting. So we won't have, in one case, a school that was budgeted at $67 million, even though we probably knew then that it was going to be at least $150 million to deliver to the community. Having said that, we can't waste taxpayer money. And I think in all of these processes, we have seen ways that we can make the process and the budget more predictable. And we continue to work on that. Harry?
A couple of questions for the Chancellor. One, going into the school year, how are your teacher vacancies going, and what part of the city are they in mostly?
Okay, what's your second question, Harry?
Second question is, the Washington Post pointed out that there's a significant amount of principal churn in the system. What specifically are you doing to kind of stabilize the principal corps?
So, Chancellor, if you could just talk generally, and I obviously answer his questions, but just the state of readiness for the first day of school.
Well, we're excited about the first day of school. We're going to be ready in all of our schools. So we're excited about that. We had schools start on Monday in 11 extended year schools, 13 extended year schools, in total, and all of our teachers were hired and so on and so forth. Now, what we're going to face, as all urban school districts face, is where there may be some folks who are out on leave or things like that at the beginning of the school year, and we have plans in those cases where that comes up. But we'll be ready to go on the first day of school. As it relates to our principals, I hired 20 principals this year. 16 of them were new to the system. 4 of them had been principals for us last year. When you consider that we have 115 schools, that's actually a small rate of churn. And overall, we retain 90% of our highly effective and effective teachers. And so we never want to be in a position where we are replacing large numbers of teachers. And so I think that the challenge is that some school communities have had greater turnover than other school communities. And our effort is to make sure that we're doing everything we can to provide our leaders that we've hired this year great support. I have set some high goals as to our retention of those leaders we hired this year, and I'm looking forward to them being supported by our superintendents so that they become second-year principals in DCPS. And so it is an area of focus for us, and I'm quite confident that we'll be successful in retaining them.
Specifically, vacancies in teachers, do you have any specific idea what that is?
Well, we are 99% staffed currently right now. And so, the areas where we're not staffed are not vacancies that we've carried. They are recent openings, and we have a plan for all of them. So we'll be 100% ready for school. All of our classes and schools will be ready to go on Monday.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Mariah Villingett from the Washington Post, and I had a question for the Chancellor. I saw the dramatic swings back to sort of where we were 2 years ago at Wilson High, and I was interested to know if you had any more insight into what happened last year that led to, I don't know if it was an anomaly or to the dramatic drop in scores.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm excited about Wilson High is that they're up over where they were 2 years ago, and I think it's an excellent reflection of the talented educators there and our amazing students there. I mean, I think the big issue that you had is any time in high school is taking the time to explain to students the importance of the assessment and why they need to take it, and then us working systemically to make sure that we are reducing conflicts as much as possible with other expectations that the students have at the time. So, for instance, advanced placement assessments. We've gotten great support from Superintendent Kang's team to help us, and my team has worked with the tremendous principal there at Wilson, and we did everything we could to limit conflicts for students, and I think it made a difference.
Conflicts between AP tests and PARCC tests?
I think there were conflicts there with assessments, different assessments and priorities that students have. And I also think that there was work that needed to be done to help the students understand why the test was important. Because when you're in high school, students aren't afraid to take tests. They're going to take the advanced placement tests and SAT and so on and so forth. They prioritize that. The PARCC assessment being new was not as obvious to the students as to why they needed to take it. So we wanted to make sure that we reduced conflicts and made sure that students understood the importance, and they showed up in a big way.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, just two questions. They're both about the controversy surrounding the Confederate statues that we've seen across the country. Yeah. Al Sharpton called for the federal government to stop funding the Jefferson Memorial. Now, I know that's out of your purview, but I am curious to your thoughts on stopping the funding of monuments that honor founding fathers who were slave owners. And if you support that, what do you think should happen to those monuments?
That's the first I've heard that. I don't think that I would support that. And if we don't fund the Jefferson Memorial, it will sink into the tidal basin. So I do think that we have to have a very, if we're starting to talk about the monuments, the memorials, and the monumental core, it has to be an extended conversation. We do have a Confederate statue on federal land near Judiciary Square that we think the federal government can remove immediately.
One final question. Mayor de Blasio, he called for a 90-day review of what he calls symbols of hate on city property. Do you have any similar plans for the district? I know you mentioned the one statue at Judiciary Square.
We can certainly, I don't think that we are in that position. We've already kind of reviewed the Confederate statues, and we know of the one. We don't have any on city land. We have the one on the National Park Service land. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. So now we're going to cut the ribbon on the beautiful new Watkins Elementary. Please join us outside.